In order, Commissioner Sutton, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to take just a moment of silence and honor Larry Loveland, please. Thank you, everyone. First item on the agenda, we have Deanna Harmer with the quarterly report. Is Deanna out there? I believe she is. She was.
Sorry.
Good morning.
Morning, Deanna.
Hi. They're very interested in quarterly report.
Yeah, I bet.
Is there a video?
I can make one. Busy day here today.
Yeah.
Good sign.
Yeah. Okay, reporting July through September. We had our pod exercise October 17th. We provided flu shots to college students and children. So in Aberdeen, Presentation College did a closed pod with the college students, and we sent traveling teams up to Northern. We vaccinated 300 college students. On that day, Webster set up a mini pod where they have their own flow and floor plans and all that, and they vaccinated 243 flu shots to children. Influenza is circulating, but it's sporadic. We've only had 13 confirmed cases. All of those are influenza A, 4 hospitalizations and no deaths as of last week. Vaccine is available at the Brown County Community Health Office for $45. If you don't have insurance, if you do have insurance for Medicaid, we can file insurance. We do recommend appointments for that. So we're busy doing flu shots and school screenings. We are contracted with Warner and Hutterville to provide school screenings. Frederick opted out of the school screenings this year, so we've been to Warner and seen all the kids there. We'll go to Hutterville in the spring, and then we go back in the spring and do puberty with Warner. We did hire a new part-time nurse, Marcy Harder. She'll be working with WIC and immunizations, and she started at the end of October. So, anybody have any questions?
Busy as usual.
Yeah, we are this time of year. It's our busy time, so just the flu keeps us going. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'll be back in a few months then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Have a nice day.
You too.
We got about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Actually, just take care of a couple of things.
Okay, the minutes of the joint city-county and general meeting of October 30th.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Hanson, to approve the joint city county meeting minutes, general meetings October 30th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Claims. Move.
Second. Moved by Kepley, second by Fishback, approve claims. All in favor?
Aye.
Did you take that one?
I guess there is a discussion on that. There's one claim we're holding out on.
Okay, if you just pull it, then,
Okay.
yeah, we'll cross it off the list.
Opposed? Motion carries.
HR report.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Hanson, to approve the HR report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Claim assignment.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Fishback, second by Kepley, to approve the claim assignment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There's the documentation for the 2019 Bridge Improvement Grant for preliminary engineering. That needs the
Second.
chair sign.
Moved by Hanson, second by Sutton, to authorize chair to sign the bridge improvement grant for preliminary engineering. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, surplus property, the IT% of the list of obsolete computer equipment for disposal.
Second. Moved by Kepley, second by Fishback, to authorize the surplus property for IT. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All I have.
Okay. I guess we're ready for our next item. The next item, we have David Fiker to discuss the fire station dump site on South Fifth Street.
Yes,
David.
we,
Come up front.
sit in the hot seat.
Hot seat.
You bet.
This dumpster site is come up again. They built onto the fire hall and there's no parking, so, and then safety, when they hook up to those dumpsters and fire trucks are sitting outside. Otherwise, it's a clean operation, but I think it's time for a new location.
Yeah,
think
we've
we
done
all
that for
thought of
years.
that.
Yeah. Well, another thing, I wanted this meeting so that everybody could get on the same page. The township, the fire department, the firemen, and the county, and Mike Scott, so we could all be on this, so we know what's going on. So, you know, it probably ain't gonna happen right away, and we'd probably like that, but...
Well, you know, we had some, I think there's some options. I think Mike brought one of the options up, possibly just closing the site and moving the dumpsters to the fairgrounds. I realize it's probably a little inconvenience down on that end, but until we can come up with somebody that wants to donate land, or we can have an option to purchase some land, we just can't imaginary get a dump site out of thin
Well,
air.
that's
You know,
true.
it's going to take some time, but I understand the frustration down in your end, causing problems. I think it's important that, you know, if the fire station is having inadequacies, with that being there, we probably need to address that, and I guess that's kind of where we're at. And Mike, you have any other information that you would...
I don't have anything else new to share, I guess. I was in touch with the possible location again yesterday, but the price tag is, you know, anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million just to develop that site. So, I
Do
mean...
you feel that moving it up to the fairgrounds for now, the north site, would that cause...
We can accommodate that, but it's always, like you said, an inconvenience. It's going to take some getting used to, but,
I think if we close that one and do that, I think we can't quit looking for a spot though.
No.
Right.
There's a lot of people down
One
here.
thing that will happen is people are so used to going there that they'll go down there when they're gone, you know, and they're gonna dump on the ground.
You're gonna have to put some signage up, I think, for a while.
But you still, and people will do that.
I
Oh,
They'll
my.
do it.
Habit.
That's gonna be
Been
crazy.
around it for 26 years.
Yeah.
You can put a sign there too, and people
That's
can
right.
walk right up there and put it there.
Just
like the sign that says no couches or whatever.
Like I said, it's...
No dumpster diving?
It's
You see 'em in there
nothing
all
new
the
to
time.
me. Like I said, I've been around it so long that it's just...
You know, and I don't know that you'll ever prevent that. You see the
You'll
same thing on the
never
north,
stop it.
you know,
Yeah.
you'll never stop. And then if you get really tough on it, they'll start dumping the couches and the refrigerators in the ditches. That's
Right.
just the way it
They
works.
do that now.
I do
Right.
that now.
I
How
live
many
on the
years ago?
8th Avenue Road, and I'm picking tires up all the time.
Yeah, I-
Mike's been good enough for me to, I can tell him I got 3 tires, can I dump?
Yeah.
Yesterday, there was somebody dumping illegally there with a trailer, and they were dumping some plywood and stuff and just sitting in front of the can. I was just having to watch the camera right there, and their phone number's on the side of the pickup, so I called it up and I said, hey, if I had a loudspeaker there, I'd do it that way. But he picked up his stuff and he brought it out to the landfill, so, you know, it's...
I talked to one guy who's dumping steel in the dumpsters, and he said, well, I know. I said, they'll fine you. I know. Just didn't give a damn.
Well, we've been looking for a site out there, Mike, for how many years we were out there
A long
tramping
time.
around, and until we
Yeah.
can get one reasonable, I think we need to close it and move it up there.
I agree. I think the consolidation, just like with schools and everything else, you know, it's
Yeah.
just something that's...
But you might want to add a dumpster to West Warner then.
We can do that.
Yeah.
What's
We
You know,
need a
it's just such a...
refrigerators do. I think.
I don't know how we get to
Okay.
To Mike's credit, he had put in the budget for the landfill, a couple $100,000 this year to try to get something accomplished and start building a fund for that, but unfortunately, because we were broken, we were really tight this year, we had to take it out.
I
We're-
understand that too.
I think you're right, though, if we move everything up to the north for now and keep looking, if anybody hears, maybe this will hit the paper, somebody has some ideas on a little space, because you said it would only take, what,
It's about a 400 by 300
400
site
by
is what we're
300
looking for.
feet?
So,
Well, I'll make the motion that we close that, and then utilize that north one, and probably put more dumpsters down in Warner.
I'll second it. With the stipulation that we continue looking for
Absolutely.
an adequate spot.
Timeline as far as closing it?
Do it now, I don't care.
At your convenience.
Make it
We
happen.
can do it within the next week.
And
I'm gonna be
whatever
gone for
works
a
for
week,
you.
so I'd rather
Yeah.
do it when I get back, so.
Before, yeah.
And thank you guys
Before
for
the weather
working with
gets
us, and a big apology from the folks in the county that are being slobs. There's no excuse for that when you guys can't get to your equipment, it's dangerous, so, thanks.
We have a motion by Hanson, a second by Sutton to close the south dump site at the South 5th Street. With the stipulation, we continue to look for additional site and move it to the North Fairground site
And add
and
some
add
dumpsters.
some dumpsters down to the west site down by Warner. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That'll help those Edmond County ones that are dumping by Warner.
It's gonna take some time just to do this, to get some signage made. It's not
Absolutely.
gonna happen overnight.
No.
So,
We realize that.
Will you add additional dumpsters to the fairground site then
we'll take the
too?
ones from
Yeah.
the fire station and put up there, and whatever dumpsters we've got available.
Sure.
We'll,
Good.
hopefully we can stay on top of it. It's just gonna be one less site to maintain.
Right.
We've got everything consolidated up there, but,
Well, that's a big open site, easy.
and the grass too, everything will cease
Yeah.
at the fire station location.
Right.
So we will
Is
move
it
everything.
worth the time to take and draw a little map so people that aren't familiar, easiest route to get the north dump site? I mean, I don't know if that's critical, I don't know how many people aren't familiar, but
We
I,
can, I think most people know where it's at.
By the
we can-
fairgrounds, yeah.
We can do that. Like I said, we'll pull everything out and place some signs to that effect, and we'll get it done here within the next couple weeks. Like I said, I'm gone for a week now, but we'll be back and we'll get it done.
Good.
Thank the fire
you.
department and township for putting up with us all these years.
I don't know how long it's been there, but I've been here 26 years, and it's been here before that.
Yeah,
Been a long time.
been looking for a long time for another
I know you
site.
have.
Like I said, it's going to be an inconvenience for some, and a learning curve, but it's 4 miles from fire station to Fairgrounds.
I appreciate it, Mike, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for working with it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You wanna do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead.
Next item on the agenda, we have Mr. Carlson with the county coroner, to discuss coroner issues. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning.
Mike?
Now we're done, I gotta say, talking trash. Recently, Chris White and myself had a little meeting with the city in regards to issues related to the coroner, expenses related to the coroner. Namely, the meeting was all stemmed out of some hazmat issues. We don't have a lot of those every year. Hazmat issues as far as the coroner deal with people that have died and have been there a long time. And, you know, the decomposition process is fully involved. And we call in the fire department and their hazmat unit to get the body contained into a body bag for removal from the place again. The reason we call in the fire department, they've got the equipment. The issue that came up was fire department wants to be paid to replace that equipment. The suits they wear, the boots they wear, the gloves they wear, since it's a hazmat issue, it's all disposable. There's a bill that came through, I don't know if you've seen it yet, for $300. That's a bargain. After the meeting, I asked the fire department if they wanted me to resubmit. The actual cost of these outfits is about $300 per person. And they generally they have 3 firemen that show up. So a typical hazmat removal is going to be, $900 to $1,000. Property owners, they've traditionally taken care of the cleanup. If it's in a generally always been an apartment, but it could be a private house. You know, that's their responsibility. Which would, I know this is the county, not the city, but I know the city's been talking about apartment inspections, which would probably be a good thing, because I don't always think the cleanup is done in the best way for the next tenants. But this has caused Chris and I to have more conversations, and basically it's taking the coroner's office from the way we've been dealing with it, not maybe as a true department of the county, and have to look at it more as a real department of the county as far as the expenses and everything. As Chris said, fortunately there's not a ton of laws on the book as far as the coroner's office goes and responsibilities. But I printed these out, and Chris, you can chime in anytime you want. But some of the things that the coroner's office is responsible for is making sure, and this is a little bit ambiguous to myself, that the deceased person is delivered to the person that's responsible for handling the deceased person. I'm not sure exactly what that all means, if that means physically picking them up and bringing them to a funeral home, if that means just contacting the family and finding out what their end purpose is. Currently, right now, the only time I pick up a body is if we have further investigation to do, meaning an autopsy. If there is no relatives and no one is claiming the body immediately, or if a family says, I don't know where to do, I don't know where to send it, just to get the body out of that place of death until they can make their decisions. One of the things in looking at all this, of course, everything always comes back to dollars. And, I'm not looking for $1 million piece of property or anything. But some of the things that'll be coming up next budget time, I'll be taking a more active role in the budget, starting with, some of the things like the hazmat things. You guys talked about some training I had last month, which, is mandated by state statute every 2 years. Some of those things to make sure they get written in the budget. One of the things that I would like to, and I'm not sure exactly what the process is for it, is coroner compensation. You guys have to approve it. Brown County has roughly on average about 75 calls a year for coroner. Currently the compensation is $150 a call. One of the things we've run into with the city, I guess the fire department, police department are all union, and assisting the coroner isn't necessarily part of their union duties. And I say assisting the coroner, the physical help of lifting bodies. Because right now, 98% of coroner requests is answered by the coroner himself, since we are basically a one-man department. I do have deputies, but deputies are basically cover me when I'm not here. We'll need to make some allowances for additional help. The sheriff's office, they've been great. That's not a problem. Anytime there's a death out in the county and we have to make a removal from wherever the sheriff's deputies are there, Johnny on the spot helping. Which I don't think they're union, are they? Okay.
No, they're not.
Yeah, but they're all very willing to help. And some of the issues that we deal with, law enforcement, they're not all, I guess I'll say, emotionally equipped to deal with all that. And some people take that home with them. I know the fire department, when we had our meeting, they say, whenever they have a hazmat issue, they look for some of the more seasoned guys to send on it, not their younger guys, because, it can mess them up for a while, I guess.
Your hazmat, Mike, do you know how many we usually end up with? I realize that
No.
you can't predict, but I mean, you can kind of go back with past history and say, well, did we have 3 last year and 2 the year before?
And that's about the numbers. It's not a lot, 2-3 a year. It's the way it goes. And I try to be a pretty good judge of that. I mean, sometimes people have been there for a while, but you can sometimes handle them. But there's other situations where it's like You know, I don't have the equipment for it, I don't have the manpower for it. You know, years ago, back when I was a deputy coroner in the 80s, you know, the coroner, you know, we'd have somebody dying 4 inches of sewage in a garden level apartment. Well, the way he dealt with it was, you guys go in there and take care of it, and, you know, back in those days, I'd walk out with a ruined pair of shoes. But, you know, today with all the awareness of what you're getting into, you can't do that. And I wouldn't want to impose that on anybody. You know, even little things are changing, like when we confiscate prescription drugs. You know, we count them out, we log them all, and then we dispose of them. And we dispose of them through use of my crematory. We burn the drugs periodically. You know, you can't just count drugs anymore. You know, with all this fentanyl and stuff, you know, people that count drugs, they got to be gloved and masked. You know, so, you know, a lot of those things have just been expensive, and I've been absorbing, you know, those types of things. But, you know, you just got to take those precautions now, and, you know, we never want to be in a situation like, should have done that. And you know, you hate to say it, but it's just a matter of time, too, before we get into actual scenes where people died, that you're not going to go in there unless you're fully gowned. I mean, in Brown County, from what we've been seeing right now, we haven't had a lot of the heroin-type issues that I don't believe I've dealt with any of a heroin-type overdose, which is getting to be a real epidemic in the country. But we certainly have some opioid issues, you know, and the methamphetamine-type issues that we have to be careful for. You know, a lot of those issues, you don't realize it until you're in the middle of it. So, but more so today, I'm not even sure when the budgets are coming up.
May, June.
Okay.
We start talking.
So just so you guys know, I mean, we can operate as we've been operating right now, but come budget time, there's probably going to be a pretty sharp change in the coroner's budget. One of the things, I guess I would like some feedback from you guys, not necessarily today, but at some point. I know the state statutes do make allocations that the coroner could be a salaried position. Right now, when I need an additional coroner coming in, you know, it's 150 for me, it's 150 for them. And then when if we have to send someone on the road, we go on an hourly wage for that. But I just think maybe, and I might be totally wrong, but it might be easier budgetarily to put the coroner on a salary, which I do field probably 85% of the calls in a year's time. But yet, you know, deputies, they can't be on salary according to this, which there's not enough salary paid out to my deputies to warrant anything like that. Some of the other things too, and it's even a little hard for me to believe, but we've got a ton of people in Brown County that, I'll say, ended up here. And they've got no family here, they've got no community ties, and some of them are, you know, here because of mental illness issues. They never moved on and found a safe, convenient place to live. But when they die, you know, it takes a concerted effort by the law enforcement, my office sometimes, to find relatives. And a lot of those people, you know, they're not, at the end of the day, they're not having funerals or any of that sort of thing. But most of the time what I see is when you find a family member, they've been estranged for so long, they say, well, let's cremate them and send you their ashes. We've had a couple of issues where we do that, and it generally ends up on my business. I'm talking now as a funeral home, that, you know, we're doing this for these families, and we're leaving an apartment full of some valuable things. I know I've got one right now. I've got my eye on where the guy's got a car that's sitting out there, and all of a sudden all that stuff's gone, and no one gets paid for anything. I've had a couple of those in the last couple of years, you know, again, it takes more personnel if you're going to do that, you know, collecting assets and that sort of thing. But when you got something big and hard like a car, I don't know if if it's the county's responsibility to secure some of those assets. And where I'm going with this, there's some counties, not many in South Dakota, if any at all, but I know I've dealt with them in other states, where every single death, there's a coroner's fee. It's either they call it a death certificate fee or a release fee, but it's how the coroner's office takes care of their budget somewhat. And that would be something to consider for the county, like even a $25 to $50 coroner fee that would be paid to the county for anybody that is dealt with a coroner. Growing county fees and that, I know it's never popular, but as our expenses increase, I mean, the coroner's office, I think traditionally has probably been one of you guys' least expensive offices to fund. But a fee for that, if it was even $50 times 75 calls a year, is going to take care of a lot of those few hazmat fees we have, some of the unreimbursed, because they're all unreimbursed, autopsy fees. That's autopsy fees have got to be, I'm sure, at least half of my budget, if not more. So.
Is that death fee or coroner fee or whatever you want to call it, is that allowable by South Dakota statute?
Yeah, as long as you guys approve it.
Okay.
And, tell me if I'm wrong, Chris, but that's the way I read it.
Okay.
Which statute are you looking at?
And the hard part about that is you can put a fee on that. It's much like when you house an inmate in the jail.
Yeah.
You probably get paid for 30% of them, because there's no assets, but I mean, you've got the fee there, and the thing of it is, if you put a $50 coroner fee on, it's not large enough for the county to really go through the transaction of the final lien for $50. So, there's some validity to it, because there would be some revenue generator for the ones that have some kind of an asset hid. But on those that wouldn't, it'd be just a moot point at that point, because it's like housing an inmate.
Yeah, and here's where I shoot myself in the foot. A lot of time that's put onto the funeral home to pay that to the county for the family. So you can understand what I say. If there's no money to get paid in the first place, who's paying it anyway? But
I hear you.
And that's a tough thing when you put the coroner's hat on. You got to think on just this office, whether it affects you to the negative for your other hat you wear. I can't find it right now, Chris, but it is in there. But the county can set fees and
7-14-910
10.
in there. The one I was looking at is that within 30 days, you have to give all those assets and the money on somebody you can identify family to the treasurer. How does that work? Like the car, for 30 days they take ownership of the car and then sell it to pay for the fees, or how does that work?
I can only think of delivering money to the treasurer one time. The circumstance where we don't find a family member fairly quickly isn't very often. Again, a handful of times a year. Most of the time when we find people that died that have large sums of money on it, there's family there right away. So we turn that over to them most of the time, even after the scene.
Well, I'm surprised.
I'm just shocked.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a lot. And of course, when you do find large sums of money, you think, maybe we should be looking through this house a little bit more. But some people operate on cash. I'm not sure how we would do that. I mean, granted, we're in the house that time. Is it worth the time and effort to gather things up? I mean, you kind of look like you're making a dash for it. Or is it, I don't have an answer for that.
How have we done in the past? Whoever's renting it, the person that owns the building takes care of cleaning it up and takes what they want out of, I know it doesn't happen often, but...
Yeah.
Their assets are probably pretty limited if they don't have any way of maintaining anything. I mean, they're probably
Oh, yeah.
next to
I
homeless.
had one occasion where a gentleman died, and all his family was in Texas. You know, he had this little old rusted out pickup, and the family says, well, you take that and we'll apply that to his cremation bill. Well, we took it and we drove it right out to Stravinsky's junkyard. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you get a lot of times. It's not worth the, and then of course you got to go through all the paperwork of, you know, that type of thing, transferring titles, and you know, it's more difficult. But so the one question you have, I don't have an answer for you.
Well, I think just the fact that your involvement in the budget process helps us, you know, to understand where you're going for the next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate you bringing that to us now, because that kind of gives us a heads up for a reference of what we're going to do for the budget. Kind of.
Yeah, when I say, you know, it'll impact it, you know, I'm not talking doubling it. But, you know, we may see a third increase, I'm thinking. And is there a particular time when you guys have a meeting to talk more about budgets before they're finalized?
We start in May and June, so that would
Okay.
be the time to really get us the information so we can consider that through the process.
Okay, just so we could talk about things?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't come very often, but is there anything else you
Nice
guys
to
have
see you,
questions?
though.
Yeah. I'd say I put a tie on here, but that's kind of standard equipment, so. Okay.
All right, I appreciate it, Mike.
Yep,
And
thank
we'll
you.
take it under advisement and look over it, and if you'll work on the budget part for next year, we'll see where we end up.
Okay. And I guess between now and then, the biggest things you probably, you know, if we have any other outside expenses like Aberdeen Fire and Rescue, those would be kind of slipping through. Okay. Let's hope not. No one likes those calls.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yep.
Thank you.
It'd be interesting to get a hold of our state organization and see what fees and what other counties are covering. If we're light on that, or if we're doing more, or...
I was going to say, maybe we could do a little research and see. I know counties kind of all over the board. In a lot of counties, the sheriff serves as a coroner, so there's different scenarios.
I gave it to Louise.
Doug, does anybody have anything
You can do it with this phone, too.
today?
Well,
I have
no,
a hearing at
that's the
9:30 that I gotta
conference.
get to.
I don't.
So Mike, if somebody dies in the hospital, do you have to show up over there or not?
ER calls, I generally, when they call me, get some information and take in consideration, you know, age and past medical
So
history.
you have to be part of every death in the county then, huh?
Not everyone. If they're on hospice, they notify us ahead of time, so we don't go out on hospice deaths unless, we just had one this last week where the person was on hospice and he went down and the family kind of freaked out and called the ambulance in. Once the ambulance in and starts doing resuscitating, they waive hospice rights, so then the police and I had to come to that. Or anybody that's been in a hospital over 24 hours. The hospital under 24 we're notified, we're supposed to be notified on. Just curious. Yeah. And everything in a nursing home even, say someone falls, breaks a hip, goes to the hospital, dies a week later, that's a coroner issue. There's a lot of things with the coroners most people don't even think about. Doctors can only sign a death certificate in South Dakota if the manner of death is natural.
Really?
That's why I get called in on nursing home calls. If they have a fracture, then that's considered accidental, which then becomes a coroner's issue.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris?
Okay, you want to dial Todd?
Chris got to leave at 9:30. He had something that he wanted to bring up, I think.
Oh,
You got to be somewhere at 9:30?
Yes, do you need me for executive session and all?
I don't think so. I think you're
If
good.
you need something, call me, I got about 7 minutes.
No, I think we're all right.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Dial 9 to get out or 8? 9.
8, isn't it?
In here, that's still 9 in here.
is that one still 9, Gary? Oh, I'm sorry.
Try it.
There you go.
in trouble.
Good morning, Meyer Henry Sargent.
Good morning, this is the Brown County Commission calling for Todd Meyer Henry.
One moment, please. Please stay on the line, and we'll be back in a moment.
This is Todd. Good morning, Todd. Dwayne Sutton with the Brown County Commission. How are you doing today? Good, and you? I'm doing great. Just got done with the Sioux Falls Parking Board. I'm one of the citizens that gets to go and see how our parking in Sioux Falls is doing. All right. Well, I'll turn you over to our chairman, Doug Feldheim, and we'll get this started. Super.
Good morning, Todd. We have you on speaker.
Good morning.
Would you like to give us a little update on our bonding with NSU Conduit Finance?
Sure. Just to give you a little overview, the county gets their power to do these conduit financing by piggybacking 9-54, which is the economic development statute that municipalities have. And in South Dakota, well, basically there's two types of bonds that governmental entities can issue. One is a governmental bond, and that's basically what the county does when it builds an addition to the courthouse or a county fair building or any other highway maintenance building. They use governmental bonds, and they can borrow tax exempt. In addition to that, counties can do what is called as private activity bonds, which are these, and they act as a conduit to pass through to the non-governmental entity tax-exempt borrowing powers. And so that's what we're doing here. The foundation is a 501c3 entity, and these would be 501c3 bonds. The federal government, instead of just allowing the 501c3 entities to go out and borrow tax-exempt on their own, they wanted to have a basic citizen input ability, so they made counties and cities across the country be the conduit issuer for them. What this basically means in South Dakota laws, the county is the borrower, but they have no obligations. They have to list it now on their audit, saying these are the conduit issues we have outstanding and what's remaining of principal, but it is not a general obligation or a limited obligation, any kind of obligation of the county, other than they're the issuers and provide a forum for the public. Now what we have going on is we've published notice of the hearing for next week, and at that hearing, anybody that's for or against can show up and give their comments to the county commission, and at the end of that commission hearing, the county commission, at its discretion, could pass a resolution authorizing the bond and move forward. And then at that point, we publish that, and to be safe, I think it's an administrative act, but to be safe, we usually wait the referendum period, and then we can schedule a closing. And in the meantime, the foundation goes and finds the purchaser of the bonds. It's not the duty of the county. They'll go out, and I think a consortium of local banks up there are going to get together and finance these improvements. Now, what this project is a foundation is on a fundraising mission. They are going to raise all the funds to make these improvements to Northern, and basically give these improvements, or give the money to Northern to make these improvements. And the bonds will be payable from donations that come in within a 10-year period.
So these bonds, you don't have your general public purchasing any of these bonds. It's basically all through the foundation?
Well, yeah, the county commission doesn't have to go out and figure out who's going to purchase these bonds. This will be negotiated and presented who's purchasing it to the county commission. They'll negotiate a purchaser, so that's kind of all on there. It's kind of like a commercial loan. They'll go find some lenders to buy these bonds, and once we close the issue, then basically most of the communication will be, almost all of it will be between the banks that hold the bonds and the foundation.
Todd, is there an annual maximum on what can be bonded for?
Well, there isn't. The only thing that normally we look at is there's a $10 million limit for bank qualification. And what that means is the banks can go out and borrow money and buy tax-exempt debt, which means they don't pay any taxes on the interest, and they also get to deduct a portion of their interest expense that they borrowed. So sometimes they go to the Fed, they borrow low, they get to deduct that interest, and then they don't have to claim the income. So that's a $10 million limit, and that's why they came to the county, because we assume the county hasn't issued any debt this year.
And in the event we would be contacted next year, for example, this would in no way hinder our ability to do that next year?
Correct.
Okay.
It's just an annual deal. It's what you do in this calendar year.
Okay, thank you.
And to set the bond issues up in that, there's no expense to the county. Is the NSU or the foundation taking care of that part? I don't suspect
Correct.
you're working for zero.
Yep, I've asked Maxine to make sure that whatever expenses the county incurs with publication, et cetera, that they give those to us, and we'll make sure that the county gets reimbursed for whatever it needs to be.
Okay.
How much time does it take? Is it minimal for organizing all this?
It hasn't taken me much time at all.
I don't know, I don't have any other questions for you, Todd. I don't know if anybody in attendance or the other commissioners do. I think you've kind of explained that the county basically has zero liability. We're just trying to improve our status of Aberdeen by improving our university and trying to keep growth going up here.
Yeah, I met with them 5 years ago. My daughter was looking for college, and so she went through all the Minnesota, MIAC, you know, the Lutheran, all those colleges over there, the Catholics, all those private colleges. And at that same time, I was up on the building authority, state building authority's general council, and so they financed some northern improvements. So we had our annual meeting up in Aberdeen and toured them. And I've always thought to myself, you know, this campus is beautiful. It's like a private college anywhere else, but at a public tuition expense. And it's just an amazing campus, and I think all the money that they're going to stick in, it's great for Aberdeen.
Yes, it is. Will you be at next Tuesday's meeting then, Todd?
Yep, I will.
Okay.
I'll be up there bright and early and answer any questions that comes up at the public meeting. It seems that in this political environment, we always have a few that don't understand what's going on and show up and ask questions.
Good. I'm glad you'll be here to answer those questions.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate it, Todd. If there's any other questions, I guess we'll see you next Tuesday.
Sounds good. We'll
All
see you
right.
then.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Goodbye.
There you have it, folks.
Don't you like that reporter on TV this morning after she thought she'd hung up talking to that politician?
I have a dial tone.
Next item on our agenda, we have Gary Vetter to discuss a right-of-way occupancy application for Dirk Rogers.
I handed out a drawing to you. This is basically in Brown County 18, in section 5-6, township 125 north, range 61 west. Basically for James Valley Telecommunications, they're going to be boring through 18 to fix a copper phone line that's starting to fail to that residence there. So about 1,000 feet south of 118th Street on County 18, which is...
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Fishback, second by Sutton, to authorize the occupancy for James Valley.
James Valley Communications.
James Valley Communication. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess that's everything on the agenda. The next item on the bottom of the discussed request from Aberdeen Rural Fire Department to connect to the county internet.
Well, now that we're moving, we probably don't need to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean,
No.
it's basically for the cameras and things down there, if you're shutting down the,
Yeah?
that's why I said you may want to wait until after that discussion before you vote on providing internet down there.
Well, I don't think there's any need at this point.
No.
I think that's kind of null and void at this point.
Yep.
But I thought they needed it for some part of their communications, and they were just asking to hook up to the county internet. Will we be pulling it out of there altogether? I guess that's my question. I know we won't have the cameras there. I'm just curious.
For some of their dispatch calls.
Would we-
Right,
That's
because
right.
there was some sporadic
Have to call-
connectivity.
call them in.
Yeah, I'm just curious if we'll be pulling it out of
We,
there.
Yeah, that might have a point there.
Because of a connectivity problem that they wanted to
If they
hook.
want to take over the bill for the month.
I think that's what the email was about.
I just want to make sure we got
Right.
we're not pulling the plug prematurely here.
Yeah, Paul, we have a question in regards to the rural fire department to connect to the county internet. That's on the site down there. We made a motion this morning to close that site as far as the dump site. So what else are they trying to connect to our county internet for if we close that site? Does that affect all that? So does that affect what's happening, I guess we could go on speaker if everybody wants to hear, but does that affect anything that they're trying to do with us? I mean, if we close the site,
Someone else that would do.
okay,
That's all that internet down there is for, so Mike can see his cameras.
So that'll be pulled, so it's a moot point then.
so what was the intent of the fire department to connect to our internet?
Tell him he's on speaker.
You're on speaker.
Yeah, what they were looking for, they had an issue with they have a laptop that runs
Right
their,
here.
phone outs from dispatch, and their internet failed at one time, so they were looking for a backup. Since we had it down there, but if the dumpsters are leaving and we pull the cameras, we would have no need to have an internet connection down there.
Okay, good.
That's
Okay.
good.
That answers our question.
Yeah, that answers everything. We just didn't want to mess something up by closing the site and then taking the internet out, and they were relying on it, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was just kind of a backup, or,
Okay,
so if there's one down, they would still get their tones.
okay.
Do you want to touch base with Mark and see if they still want a backup? They could probably take it over if they buy the router from us and just,
Well,
it's already,
they just have to get a connection from Midco, that's all we have down there.
right.
So they could do that on their own and pay the cost. But the discussion was, since we had it there for the cameras, but if we pull the cameras, then we'd have no need to pay for internet down there,
Okay.
so.
That sounds good. You've answered the question.
Alrighty,
Hey, thanks, Paul.
hey, no problem.
This is again.
Russ is not listening.
Okay, that takes care of that. Anything else to come before the commission? I think maybe we want a short exec in regards to a contract.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Hanson, second by Sutton, move to exec for contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are in exec. We are out of exec, no action as a result.
Okay.
Nancy, you gonna be here Thursday? or-
No, I will not.
I can be here.
Yes, I
I
am.
had other
Yeah.
plans, but
The dump site on sale. I just saw on the news that you guys are closing it. Why? I use that all the time.
Gonna have to use the north one.
But why? Why do you want
The
them-
fire station
Danger.
requested that we vacate it because of
Your
safety
property.
concerns with the
Not
fire
fire
trucks.
Is it gonna go somewhere else then?
Yeah.
Looking.
It'll be
Trying to
up by
find
the
a place.
fairgrounds.
Trying to find a place.
Yeah, but for temporarily, you'll have to use the one at the fairgrounds. We'll hear that from others too.
Oh, yeah, you will. Nobody knows.
unless you know somebody that wants to donate some land down there, near the south end of the town.
I have 2 acres, but I'm not giving up money.
Yeah, that's
But it would
pretty-
be so close for you.
Yeah, so it's for everybody else and all their garbage and all their furniture and everything.
Yeah, and that is why. The
Okay.
furniture and everything blocking.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because I just saw it and I'm like, well, I didn't know you guys were voting on that, so, or saying anything about it, so, I mean, yeah,
Well,
it's probably gonna get a lot.
They're
more
basically
on the
kicking
agenda.
us out, so that's...
They
Yeah.
just asked us to leave, yep.
Yep, that's a good way to...
From a safety standpoint,
Well, I can understand.
accessibility and so on.
If they build on, need more
Okay, you're
room
gonna be here
there.
then?
All right.
Yeah, well, I have to be. These two, one's gonna be in Palm Springs, and the
You
other's
say
gonna be
Kansas, 4
in
o'clock then?
I'll be in the
Florida,
snow.
Florida, whatever.
I'll be in the snow.
4 o'clock on Thursday.
Thursday.
Okay,
Are you going to this Millbank meeting the 15th?
I'll let you know, I've got a,
That's the 19th, right?
yeah.
Max, that's the
And
19th?
yours is the maybe.
Is that the 19th?
I'll be there.
15th. I will not be, because I have a meeting I'm at a meeting the 13th, 14th, and 15th.
I'm hoping to be in Sioux
Go
Falls.
back like
State
region.
volleyball.
Oh, sure.
That's the Lake Region, yeah. Good thing you looked at
No,
the
thanks.
I'll
date.
know after tonight.
Anything else to come before the commission?
Move, we adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Fishback, we adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Add enough.
We are adjourned.